The reason I wanted to address you guys is what we're trying to do here is just at the end of this session. We'll get the question. We'll get the questions here in a second. Just we're trying to do a proposal at the end of the session here. We need to come up with a proposal or a project. And what I'd like to do is, actually, Dr. Jihad can help us with this, is what is it that we can do? How can we do it? I mean, the environment is completely different in the US and how to do business. If somebody was a business owner, how to, I think manufacturing, we haven't addressed a lot of that stuff, is if somebody wants to start a business here, I know the risks are completely different as far as, how feasible is it for somebody to come in and say, I have a factory in the US, I'd like to use the labor force, we have a great labor force, what kind of guarantees, I'm sure there's not a whole lot of it, but how kind of guarantees to help the locals bring labor to the market and at the same time benefit our people here. So if you talk a lot about your expertise, what you like to do, and just let us know how feasible it is. It's like you addressed a minute ago, you said we're lack of financial advisors. I'm a financial advisor. How do I come here to here to Palestine and have a project to address some of the issues? When I speak to somebody in the US about their financial situation, I get to do something completely different. About here is the risk is how safe is it or how feasible it is to do the business that we want to do. That's all I wanted to say. So if you have a project, and so it's these specific questions, I think, instead of just going, because at the end we have to have a proposal of what can we do.
I'm a local resident, Fadi Abu Saada from Palestine News Network. I just want to add on your speech to Dr. Jihad about what the facilities that the PMA could give to those people who are here networking to help the PNA in building the Palestinian state. So away from the risks and all these things that you think about, we also want to know that our PMA here is having a facilitation, a good level for attracting you guys to come and put your money in helping us. And I have another question, but I will keep it to Dr. Jihad because it's for locals later on.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Sam Maradini from Denmark. I have a question to Dr. Jihad. We all know it's a fact that the closure policy and restriction policy of the Israelis is choking our economy. But you mentioned something quite important about the case with the flour shipment out of Rafah. This clearly shows that there is something wrong with the economic agreement signed in Paris, because the flours went out of Gaza, but again, the Israelis, as they typically do, with their quite creative interpretation of agreements, they simply, destroy the economy in different ways. So my question is, since there are some major flaws in the Paris Protocol, what are you doing to to make a solution for these? And what kind of future economic relationship would we have to the Israelis? Is it is it a free trade agreement, or is it a toll agreement or something?
My name is Mohammed Ibrahim. I'm from Denmark. I work in a bank in Denmark with finance. So it's actually a suggestion. I have two. The first one is that when I was walking around Bethlehem, our infrastructure is devastated. And you're telling me, as far as I can hear from you, that we have a lot of savings in the banks. So why don't we found corporates to invest in our infrastructure and sell those investments to the Europeans and to the Americans? On the second hand, we should establish a chamber of commerces in both, in Scandinavia, for example, in Germany, in France, in the big major capital markets, to make sure that we can export our products to bind their interest here in the West Bank and in Gaza, that even though if the Israelis want to do anything, they have to think million times before they bomb any factory or anything else. We can't just rely on the Arabs or the Israelis. We need to think out of the box. So I think it's important to work on those two levels. First of all, to invest in our infrastructure, and the next is to establish these chambers of commerce in the capital markets, major capital markets.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the first question was what can we do, especially as regards to investment, and what safety for investment and so on. I can point you to, in June, there will be an investment conference in this very hall in Bethlehem. And I would advise that anyone who is interested in investing is to come and participate in this conference, and you'll have roadshow presentations from all the manufacturers and companies, and on the legal structures, on the establishment, and on the other details necessary to encourage investment and so on. We're not as bad as people think. I think the stereotyping exists out there. Our laws, I think in the rating of the World Bank in terms of the doing business ratings, we rated a lot higher than many of the Arab countries. We're still in, I think, 100 we moved 2 points recently up in investment and doing business, because we don't have a structured bureaucracy. We're not here. The culture here is not a kickback culture, where that's available in other jurisdictions. You don't have to bribe a government official to get a license or to get something. Registration is easy. The rules and regulations are very transparent. There are investment incentives for investors. There is a special agency that established to encourage investment and give tax credits and breaks and other incentives. So there's all these issues that I think the Bethlehem conference coming up in June would help.